I used to teach high school way back, and while it was mostly uneventful, there was one time where things went pretty bad, and I'll never forget what happened. I was an English teacher for freshmen, which, for those that aren't used to the high school nomenclature, I was teaching ninth year students, which are kids that are around 14 or 15 years old at the most. I don't know if they use the same labels outside the US, so I figured it would be helpful to explain. Teaching kids that age meant that you are dealing with a lot of really dumb and dramatic things. These are really young kids that are doing their best to figure out what life actually is, and they're on the cusp of that adulthood transition, where things fall into place. So, you can't really blame them for their mistakes or when they do something stupid. That's not to say that they are without fault, just that when they do something, it is hard to pin blame on them fully as they tend to emulate what they see outside of their own lives. They also tend to try and be cool, and they have no idea what cool actually is. This story involves two young girls that I'm going to call Katie and Kylie. These two young ladies were in the group of people that really wanted to be cool kids, but were definitely on the outside looking in, which is a common thing, and there's nothing wrong with not being in that clique. The two of them were both smart girls, but they were also beginning to hit that phase where being smart wasn't what they wanted. So, they started lashing out and pushing back against authority. The two of them were in my class that I had immediately after lunch, so they would be in my room right after eating. I never really had much of a problem with either of them until this situation occurred. They were both good students and they both did their work to an acceptable degree. The day that this event happened was pretty normal, until it wasn't. We were doing the standard normal assignment that I had them do at the beginning of class when I glanced over and saw that Katie looked a bit out of it. At first, I thought maybe she was just tired or bored. But then I noticed that she looked a bit pale and like she was going to get sick. I stood up and walked over to her and asked her if she was okay, and she seemed like she wasn't really able to respond to me. She sort of glanced over but didn't really say anything. I knelt down and tried to talk to her again, but she was completely not there. Her eyes were glazed over, and she looked like she was barely breathing. At that point, I knew that something was going on with her. I told one of the other students to run next door to the health class and get the teacher, because we had a medical emergency. They were a certified nurse, and I figured that they could help. I was trying to get Katie to focus and was trying to talk to her, but it was not happening. Obviously, my class was freaking out a bit, and I was panicking inside, but I didn't want to step away from her just in case she collapsed until the other teacher got into the room. After a moment, she ran in asking what was going on. I explained the situation and she told me to call 911. I ran over and picked up the phone, and right about the time I got to the operator, Katie just fell over unconscious. There are several minutes in this situation where I really don't remember all of what happened. I remember telling the operator everything, and the other teachers starting CPR and doing everything to keep Katie breathing and alive. But between that and the paramedics shoving into my room and taking her away, I don't recall much. I won't go over too much of what happened after this, because there was a lot of paperwork I had to do and a couple of meetings with the administration that I had to have that aren't really relevant, but I will explain what all actually happened. I will start by saying that Katie did survive this event, but barely. From what I've been told about this, she was teetering over the edge for most of the ambulance ride. and it took them a while to bring her back to a conscious and living state. As for how she ended up like that, we actually figured this out pretty quickly, because Kylie spoke up when the paramedics had taken Katie away and the principal had come down to the classroom. Apparently, Katie had decided that, in order to be one of the cool kids, she and Kylie needed to do drugs. However, neither of them knew what drugs they should or could do, so she just decided to swipe a bottle of pills from the medicine cabinet. The pills in question were decently strong pain pills that her mother had from when she had broken her arm or something like that. Katie had taken them, and during the lunch break, she and Kylie went to the bathroom to take them. Kylie took one because she didn't like swallowing pills, apparently. Katie, on the other hand, had taken a handful of them because she, in her words, wanted to really feel it. Like I said, these were kids just trying to figure things out, and apparently neither of them had ever been told about overdosing or what happens. When they got to my class, Kylie was fine for the most part, just kind of tired. Katie, on the other hand, was getting hit by the medication really hard, and that's why she went pale. Her body was pretty much shutting down. Katie came very close to accidentally dying that day. Kylie nearly lost her best friend, and I almost lost a student because she thought it would be cool to take a handful of pills that she was ignorant about. They were able to get her stable, and she did eventually get to come back to class. Though, when she came back, she was a completely changed person. For the better, of course. I think the fact that she almost accidentally ended her own life really affected her, as it would anyone. I'm thankful that she didn't die, obviously, but I will honestly never forget that day. The look on her face, the absolute terror in Kylie's voice when she told us about the pills. So, I ask everyone out there, please make sure that your children are fully aware of the dangers of medication, and keep things like prescribed pain pills far away from your kids, if possible. I didn't lose a student that day, but if I had, it would have been the most devastating thing for not just myself, but those kids, the staff, and her parents.